So let me ask you this. Have you ever caught yourself looking around at work or online or even in your own private circles and thinking, man, everyone else is moving forward, so why do I feel so stuck? If you've had that thought, even quietly, then this video is for you. By the end of our time together, I think you're going to understand why that feeling shows up and what it actually means, and moreover, how to stop letting it shape your confidence and the choices that you make. Hi, I'm Leezá Steinorf. I'm an international consultant and leadership coach. I work with Fortune 500 companies, state and local governments, and emerging leaders. And I help people navigate communication, leadership, and conflict with more clarity and less self-doubt. And I want to say this right at the beginning. If you're asking this question, is everyone getting ahead but me? There's nothing wrong with you. That comes up for so many people you wouldn't believe it. And if you've been here before, welcome back. If this conversation feels useful to you, liking or subscribing actually helps other people find it too. So let's slow this conversation down for just a minute. Most people don't wake up thinking, I'm behind. That's not how it works. It shows up more subtly. You notice that someone else is getting promoted and you haven't, or you see a post about a new role or a big move or milestone, and these thoughts start going, right? Or you hear someone your own age talking confidently about the next 5 years or what they have lined up. And then inside, in an instant, something shifts. Like you might still be doing fine, but now you start to question. You question your pace, your choices, maybe even your direction. And what makes this so destabilizing isn't the comparison itself, it's what we do with it. Okay? And I want to talk about comparison because it is an absolute functioning factor in how we navigate the world, how we take in information, and how we orient ourselves. And it's a real problem if we're not aware that it's actually taking place. So comparison doesn't just affect how you feel, it literally affects how you decide. It's when it's on automatic, all right? And that leads us to an important question. Why does comparison feel so convincing even when you know better? Like you can talk yourself out of it. But there's a reason, as I said, if it's on automatic. So comparison can feel true, can feel real, because we confuse that visibility with certainty. And let me explain what I mean by that. You're reading things or you're watching other people or in conversations, you're listening to what they're saying about what they're doing, and you begin comparing your internal experience, your questions, your own uncertainty, parts that are still forming for you, to how someone else is showing up externally, how they are presenting externally, right? So you're comparing what's going on inside here with what they're putting outside there. And it's not an apples to apples comparison. And then your mind starts to fill in the blanks like, oh, they know what they're doing, they're ahead, God, I must be missing something, right? We come up with all these reasons to make sense of that discrepancy that we're perceiving. But here's what I see over again in my work, right, with all the people that I work with. People don't feel as confident as they look. Inside them, they're also feeling uncertain about things. Nobody's at the top of their game all the time. They may not feel as clear as they actually sound. And many people are moving just as quickly so that they don't have to sit with uncertainty. Like they just rush through things because it's uncomfortable, as we're sitting here talking about, right? So when you assume that someone else's pace, how fast they're going, even their trajectory, is correct, then something really subtle happens. You start treating your own timeline, your own trajectory, like it's a problem. So as soon as you assess what's out there as the correct one, automatically you make your own wrong, or you try to achieve that which you're seeing out there. And that brings us to the next question. What if your timeline, what if your path isn't broken? It's just different than someone else's, right? So your way doesn't have to be wrong in order for someone else's way to be right for them. Let's separate for a minute the fact from your interpretation. And we'll just do that for a minute, okay? So The facts may be, I don't know this, but try this on. Facts may be that you haven't reached a milestone yet, like a promotion or a pay raise. And facts may be that you're figuring things out still. Maybe you're young in your career, you're young in this position. And fact may be that your path, your pace, does not look like someone else's. Okay, those are facts. They're not wrong or right, good or bad. But what happens is that we start a narrative. We start giving value to those things. We build interpretations, filters. Gosh, I'm behind. Ugh, I should be farther along by now. I must be doing it wrong. Right? We take that discrepancy that we're perceiving, and now we make ourselves wrong for it. But here's the reframe that I'm inviting you to sit with. Growth doesn't move at one speed, and it sure doesn't go in a straight line, right? Some growth is fast and visible, like you can see it immediately. And then there's other growth that's quiet and it goes on inside and nobody else can tell but you. And there are times, seasons of your career where you are going to be building skills and doing trainings and learning. And then there are others where you are going to be building discernment and deciding what is yours to do and also what is not yours to do. And discernment is not a waste of time. So if we look at nature, right, it's a perfect example. Trees grow at different rates. Even if you plant seeds, some of them sprout immediately under the same conditions and others take a long time. Even the same plants, right? Different seeds will emerge at different times. And once they've emerged, they'll also grow at different rates. There's a reason for that. Each seed is different and every person is different. So, the question then becomes, what happens when you stop measuring your life against someone else's highest standard or their highlight reel, so to speak? What happens then? What opens up when you stop comparing, right? So when comparison starts to loosen and give, when it's not your guidance system anymore, even a little, something very interesting happens. When you start to use yourself as the measure of your progress, as the measure of your growth, as the indicator of what's right for you. You stop rushing decisions just so that you can feel caught up with whatever you think you were supposed to be caught up with. You stop saying yes to things that actually don't fit for you or don't feel right for you just because you've seen other people do it or it's the thing or you think you should. And you begin listening more closely to what actually feels aligned with your walk rather than maybe what looks impressive or what you think you should be doing. And that's where actually confidence starts to grow. It's not loud and boisterous and it doesn't have anything to do with performing, but it's grounded. Yeah. Confidence, the way that I define it, is the deep knowing of your value and standing in your strength and then acting from that place. So confidence says, I don't need to arrive right now in order to be legitimate. I don't have to have accomplished my ultimate goals in this moment or even in the next 5 years in order to be worthy. Confidence allows you to be present without feeling anxious or panicking. You can just stand in your value and know your strength. And that leads us to the next question, which is, if this is where you are right now and you are nervous or you are comparing, so how do you show up? Even despite that. And let's talk about that, okay? Because you can show up even if you haven't arrived yet, or even if you're not doing it the way you think you should according to that external framework. So here's something I would really invite you to hear clearly. You don't become confident after you arrive, after you succeed, after you've gained that accomplishment. You actually become confident by engaging honestly with where you are right now. Standing in this value, knowing your strength and coming from whatever you have right now. And that might mean asking better questions instead of feeling like you have to have perfect answers. It could be building skills without having to tell everybody what you're doing, like broadcasting every step of the way. Or maybe it would be choosing steadiness over urgency and trying to go fast. So leadership doesn't begin when everything's already figured out. It actually begins when you stop abandoning yourself in the meantime on your road. And that's not falling behind. It's actually building something real. And if we consider that there's no ultimate timeline or framework that you should adhere to, how could you be behind? If you are the own measure of your path and your choices, you can't be behind that. You can stand within it with strength. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's pull it together. If you feel like everyone else is getting ahead, it doesn't mean that you're failing at all. It means you're noticing. You're aware. You're seeing what they're doing. You're taking note of that. You can celebrate people that way. Doesn't mean you've done any less. Doesn't mean that you're not on track. It means that you are early enough in your journey to still be forming your depth and your direction. Not only momentum, not only speed. And that depth matters more than speed, even when it doesn't look that way from the outside, right? Again, I come back to nature. If you look at the majority of growth from a seedling happens before it ever breaks the surface of the soil. That opening, that germination, the deepening of the roots, man, there's so much that happens before you ever seen that little head poke up. That's exactly what we're doing as we're grooming ourselves. Okay? So if this conversation helped you breathe a little easier or gave you language to something maybe you've been carrying around quietly and couldn't really name, then go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who else might need to hear it. Because if you're feeling this way, you can be sure you are not the only one. All right? And in the next video, we're going to talk about something that's really connected to this, and that is, if I'm good at my job, why do I still feel insecure? Okay? Growth is not about keeping up. Remember that. It's about staying present. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon.